It feels as though every Sunday for the last 6 months when we meet in the airport to go to a game, the first thing you now say is, did you see the Sunday Times? Because there's something new every week, and today there were 3 or 4 more stories about the FAI, the main one being the story around Con Martin and the John Giles Foundation and the payment he received from the FAI, €5,000 a month, €300,000 over 5 years, for setting up the foundation, for setting up and dreaming up the idea of the Walk of Dreams. What's your take on what's been revealed today?
A couple of things. I have to say that, I would have known Con quite well, a great football man and from a great football family. And, his brother Mick was an international. His dad, Con, was one of the greatest players ever played for Ireland. Mick was great. And Con's a good football fella, always with the interests of the game at his heart. I don't know the details. This stuff is coming out today. He must have had a legitimate contract from the FAI to get paid those amounts of money. Now, who oversaw that contract, and was there a one-on-one with the chief executive of the time, is probably the issue. But I'm sure there was a reason why the FAI had continued to pay it over that period of time, and Con received 60 grand a year for you would have to think that there were particular responsibilities in relation to maybe the John Giles Foundation or whatever, that part of it is legitimate. But you wonder about the rest of it. It appears that Con has a claim that the FAI were paid £10 million by selling the rights to some of Con's ideas, some of the idea, which it seems a bit far-fetched, that selling the idea of having walks around Europe for various associations as fundraisers was considered a hugely bright idea that was worth that kind of money.
€10 million.
Now, I would think that there has to be somebody in the FAI that can find out the answer to that very quickly. I mean, Noel Mooney is whatever he's called at the moment, general manager, and he works for UEFA. Surely he can go to UEFA and say, did that happen? Was there a contract? Was there an agreement? And has Con got a legitimate claim? But from what we read in the Sunday Times today, it appears that John Delaney said at a board meeting, that's in the minutes of the board meeting, that I may be paraphrasing here, but it appears he said it won't be easy not to pay Con some money. So there must have been something in place, or some agreement in place, that Con was due for the money. But it's one of these other areas that's all couched in lack of clarity, that there's nobody coming out, that nobody knew, nobody was clear. But I would say, to some degree, it was a bit concerning to see John Giles' name mentioned in the headline this morning. I'm sure John's involvement in it was honest and in the interest of the game and the well-being of the game, and his interest would have been in money going back into the grassroots of the game, and that's where probably the original idea came from. And I'm sure John will have an opportunity, if you interview him during the week, to explain the involvement of Con, or his involvement in it, to maybe clear up some of the issues. But once again, it looks like there's issues out there that we don't get a clear picture from, and that there's money involved, and it seems like there was money for some things that are unexplained, where there was no money for things that should have been explained, like why were the staff's wages reduced during this period of time
when money was available.
When money was available for other items that seem less valuable.
Are you disappointed that Niall Quinn isn't going to go onto the board?
I never expected Niall himself was going to go onto the board. I kind of, I know Niall well enough, and I've been into discussions with Niall. I thought what may happen was that some of the group that were involved with Niall might take up positions on the board, on the financial or legal side, or the football side, or the business side, and that Niall might have a position somewhere in there, in an overseeing role or an advisory capacity of some degree, to use his common sense and his contacts in the game and his respect in the game to to help nourish the FAI, I would say, with ideas and vision, and to help smooth the pathways into influential business people and the government people. I mean, look at, and we discussed this with myself and Niall last night. It's a ridiculous situation that the FAI are crying out about the fact that the government may be holding back 2.8 million to football a year. 2.8 million is miserly compared to the good football does in Irish society, compared to 16 million going to the greyhound industry and vast superior amounts going to horse racing, which horse racing may well deserve. But I would hold, and most people are involved in football, that the value of football to society is much more pronounced than greyhound racing, and it deserves much more investment from the government across the game than 2.8 million. I think Niall and other people that were working in his group could have had a major impact on that, but the FAI have gone the wrong road. The report to me, Aidan Horton's report, there was massive gaps in that, in terms of, yes, they did a great job on the governance and ethics side of it, but in relation to football and business and involving the right people for the future of the game, they made huge errors. We now have a situation where it's very much a lot of the people who are already involved are re-involved. People who are involved in the council are re-involved. We're not sure what their level of expertise is that's going to change much that's happened, and we now have a situation we're waiting on 4 appointments of independent directors. 2 of them, they're obliged to have at least 2 women at this stage. It seems unlikely there's going to be anyone with any expertise in football at a high level, and it also seems like it's going to be the same situation for the Football Management Committee, which is going to be chaired by the current president, who is the outgoing president, who it is involved in all the, let's say, the misdemeanors of the past, and who seem to uphold the regime that was there previously, and yet he's the one that's in the leadership role now. So I don't blame Niall or Niall Quinn or his colleagues for not even going to, but I presume they haven't gone to the bother of applying. To me, even the ad that I saw that appeared in the Sunday Times and several other newspapers, the wording of the ad didn't show the clarity it should have shown. It suggested that people were applying for positions as independent directors, but maybe applying for positions of places on other committees, but that wasn't clear. I read the ad several times, and it wasn't clear to me what someone should do if you wanted to apply to be an independent director or to be on one of the committees. It wasn't at all clear.
Were you tempted to apply?
Definitely not. You must be joking. I had no ambition to be a director of the FAI in any shape or form. I had but I wouldn't have even encouraged other people, given on the basis of the wording of the ad. I thought they even got that wrong. And that isn't hard. That's hard to do, to get an ad in the paper where you're offering positions, be it that they're unpaid, but very important positions that many people in Irish society feel are vital at this moment in time for the future of the game. The least they could have done was got the wording right.
Finally, I know you were watching Pats on Friday night and very disappointed to see them go out of the cup to UCD, and Harry Kenny has since left his role as Pats manager. We were even getting texts in saying, ask Brian, is he going to go back and take the Pats job?
Well, no, I'm not going to go back and take the Pats job. I was in Belfield on Friday night. Great performance by UCD on the night. 3 smashing goals. And look, they could have been 5 up in the match. Pats, it was one of the poorest performances by a Pats team, given the whole circumstances where UCD are at, having lost so many good players this season, losing players in the window, such a young team, heavy defeat last week at Bows 10-1. It was set up for Pats to do a professional job on Friday night and get to the next round of the cup, and they didn't do it. And Harry has decided to resign. I presume I haven't seen all the details of that, but it hasn't been a good season given the hope there was pre-season with the players and investment, and it hasn't been a good season. They've got 8 games to go. I don't think they'll get 3rd or 4th. They'll need something, but I'm not going to go back into to managing Pats. I'm a supporter. I go to as many matches as I possibly can. I help out the club in little ways. I'm looking forward to the 90th anniversary dinner next Saturday night, and renewing acquaintances with lots of friends and past players and past committee people and supporters on what should be a great night, a celebration of the history of the club in the Green Isle next Saturday. So I'm looking forward to that, and let them get on with it, get a new manager in, whether it's a temporary basis or whatever they do before the end of the season. But you know, they're in a comfortable mid-table position. They could catch Boas or Derry, but I think that's unlikely. Both of them have been more consistent this season, but the players have got to step up the plate. They've got to do better than they've done. A lot of the new signings haven't done enough. Some of the young players have been inconsistent. I can understand that, some of the mistakes some of the young players have made, like Kieran Kelly and Kevin Toner, but they've also showed a lot of potential. And you know, it's the 0-1. Keep your best players, sign a couple of good players, and there's a good future ahead. It's a bit like the Premier League here, with Liverpool and Manchester City getting away, Rovers and Dundalk getting away, but it doesn't always say the same. Things change. Bows have had great times at the top, Shells have had great times at the top, Cork have been, you know, there and won the league, won a couple of cups, and been there and there, and the picture changes when a club has good leadership, make good appointments, sign decent players. Well-run clubs can get back into challenge, and even against the money that Dundalk and Shamrock Rovers are generating at the moment, no one should get too upset about it, that they're going to get far away and no one else going to compete. That can be done, and you know, if the All-Ireland League is going in the future, it'll be a much more competitive league where the teams at the top of League of Ireland will have real competition from the likes of Linfield, who have done very well as Europe, as we've seen this week, Cliftonville, Crusaders, Glentoran maybe coming back into the picture, Ballymena having a very good season, Coleraine. There's a future there, I think, for an All-Ireland League, with more competition, bigger crowds, more finance being generated, better players in the game, and just a more vibrant league all round for anyone that loves Irish football. An opportunity for good young players to stay at home for longer and play in that league.
You're not leaving the commentary box, that's the main thing. We'll be bad at it next week.
I didn't say that. I can do both, don't you worry.
Great stuff as always, Brian.
Thank you. Thanks, Nathan.